Let me ask you guys this. RC, we don't need to go down the angle of like the facilities and everything. We've had that argument.
No, we've
Just
already done it.
for the people that don't know, Georgetown's plays at I don't know, is it called the Verizon Center now? Whatever it's called. The
downtown
Verizon
DC.
Center. Yep. And that is a pain in the ass to get to from the Georgetown campus when you would be going for like 6:30 p.m. tip-offs, 7 o'clock tip-offs. DC traffic sucks. There is no subway. There's no transportation to be able to get from campus to the arena unless you're like taking an Uber or taking a cab or you're going to walk or ride or whatever it is, right? And when you're playing in a 19,000 seat arena and you have like 4,000 people in the building, it looks empty, it sounds empty, it's cold, it's just an awful environment, and that it kind of compounds on itself, and it is what it is. My big question for both of you guys is this: Georgetown has now lost 23 consecutive games to Big East opponents. They went 0-19 in the Big East last season. They didn't win a game after December 15th. They went an entire calendar year in 2021-22 without winning a basketball game. They've lost 28 consecutive games against high major opponents. It is not working. It has not gotten better. It has gone downhill. We thought that this year they were going to be improved. They are not, clearly. So is it time to kind of cut the cord? Is it time to rip that Band-Aid off? Do you let this thing continue to play out? Are you bottom out at this point, and it doesn't matter if you get rid of Patrick Ewing now or you get rid of him at the end of the season? Is it time, RC, to kind of just say, look, this is not working, we need to go our separate ways?
If they don't turn things around in the Big East, and looking at that schedule, we talked about this last week, I don't know when the next conference win is going to come. Like, I don't know when they're going to win the next game. I thought their best chance was against DePaul.
Yeah.
And so I told you tonight, I was prepared to be like, Georgetown was going to be I was going to propose a toast to Georgetown, and they didn't get it done. There's some talent there. I think they should be better. They're not. It's just not working. I mean, Pat, I said this last year. I thought Pat deserved to be back. I think there needs to be improvement. I think at the end of the year, if he doesn't feel that he's taken the step, I think he may decide to say, hey, you know what? I did my best, and maybe we'll move forward. I don't know how many more opportunities you're going to expect after last year, because usually in year 5, if someone goes winless in conference play, I don't know how they're back. He built that program. He is Georgetown basketball. But at some point, I think he even says himself, he'll just say, hey, look, this is a different breed of young guys. For whatever reason, it's not working for me. Let me just step away. Maybe he'll go back to the NBA or whatever the case. I mean, coaching opportunities for him, I think he'll have. But I think it's just, this isn't working. You can't go another 0 for a win, 2 or 3 games in the Big East and then expect this thing to run this back. Yeah. I mean, they're giving away, if you live in D.C. now,
they're giving away tickets and they're still not filling it up.
And no one still goes.
Yeah, John, I'm gonna counterpoint that real quick.
Man, look who you have come.
Yeah, like I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate here, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think it can get any worse, and I don't think you help the program long term by cutting ties with like the most famous alumni that you have, right? The guy that is kind of what Georgetown basketball is, the guy that started. Hoya paranoia exists because Patrick Ewing and John Thompson Jr. were there, right?
I mean, my dad literally my dad was a my dad was a big man as well, and I was a big man. So like coming up, like Greg Monroe's one of my close friends. He went there. Like that was like the big man. Like that was a school
that's a big man university.
Big man U. So like the game has changed a little bit, and so the identity of that program has also we don't really, as a kid, what is Georgetown? Like I know they had Patrick Ewing, AI, but those like they don't have an identity, and even more so now than ever, man. Like having an identity and having just a little kind of swag with what you guys got going. It's that's what the kids want, man. And so I hope he can figure it out. I wish he could figure it out because it's such a good story, man. And Pat's a good dude. Obviously playing in the NBA, I came across him a lot of times, had a lot of conversations with him. Obviously a Giant fan. So it's tough. But yeah, they might have to bring someone else in to kind of revamp that thing, and it's
But
not a
that's
bad
the biggest issue. That's the biggest
my
issue.
biggest thing is that I don't think that it's an immediate fix with anybody, right? I think you're looking at a long-term rebuild, regardless of who it is, in large part because you have to. It's very difficult to me to be able to turn a program into something that is consistently successful in a conference as difficult as the Big East is when you don't have your home court as a fortress, right? When you don't pack every single seat in that building and have it be loud and hot and tough to play in and intimidating for the officials, right? There's a reason why Cameron is so difficult to play in. And it's not just because Coach K was out there getting every single call, right? It's not because you're playing 8-on-5. You're playing 8-on-5 because there's 9,000 people in that building that are literally on top of you. You can't move. It's so loud that the building's shaking, right? John, you played there. RC, you've played there. Like that building does not hold as many people as a lot of different places in the ACC, but that is the toughest place to play in the ACC because it's packed, it's tight, it's that environment, right? You're never going to get that at Georgetown with the way that the current setup is. And I think it's going to take.
I push back on that because I think you can. I think you just gotta rope off the top of the Verizon Center, and then eventually you can get this going. You can just rope off the top and then make it the bottom level. I think it's a hell of a job. I'm sorry.
I agree with you. I just think it's
a fucking elite job to me. Again, I hate it because Pat is Georgetown, and we talked about an identity. They were tough before it was cool to be tough. Like everybody talk about toughness now. You played Georgetown, it would be like I used to coin this phrase because of that. It would be like, look, we may lose the game, but hell, we're gonna win the fight. You had to be ready to fight if you played Georgetown. So I there's things that have to change. We can talk about that, till the cows come home.
All right, so let me ask you this, RC. You have DC roots, right?
Yep.
You are a DMV guy.
Yep.
Who are you? Pick somebody, right? I know you've said Mike Jones in the past. Are you still sticking with Mike Jones?
I've said Mike Jones because that's the biggest issue right now. I think the problem of all the things that we're talking about, I think the number one issue is where do you go next with this job? Because every hire has been connected to Big John. And this was the last guy. This is it. There are no Georgetown guys out there. His son did it. Now it was Pat. They're sitting there now. That's what makes this situation so unique. And who do they hire? Because it was always, and let's be honest, it was always considered one of the only. There was a few jobs out there. It would always just felt like because DC was known as Chocolate City that it had to be a black head coach. Had to be a black head coach, and Pat was the last guy to have ties to John. So now you make the wrong hire. And all of the entire Georgetown fan base, meaning the Iversons and all these, and it's a list of guys, a hell of a list of guys. If they just push back because they don't approve of it, then where do you go? What do you do? You need to have somebody with local ties to that area to pull that off. That might say, hey, man, come on back. That has an understanding of what Georgetown is. Because if not, this is as a unique situation as I think of any job hire in the country. You think you can just go get a guy in there, but if you don't get the approval of a lot of people supporting that, then you're just wasting your time.
So I got two names. I got two names for you guys, and I already mentioned them off the air. I think that Ed Cooley makes so much sense there. One, because I just respect his ability as a basketball mind. Two, because I think that he's the kind of guy, he may not be in the Georgetown family, but nobody dislikes Ed Cooley. And I think that he'd be able to kind of mend those bridges as quickly as anybody that you can have. I don't know if he'd take it. I honestly kind of think that he probably would not if offered that versus Providence and what he has right now. But I think that that's somebody you have to go after if you are Georgetown and at least pick up the phone and make the call, right? The other name, I don't know if they would ever hire him, but if you put Rick Pitino in there and give Rick Pitino 3 years, 4 years, I think he gets that thing going. I know you're going to laugh. There's no way that ever happens, but just imagine Pitino there.
Rick is going to get it going wherever he goes. I mean, to be honest, if you give him the power of a Georgetown, because I think on top of the coaching aspect, I think Cooley and Rick Pitino's brand of basketball kind of fits in to what that Georgetown identity of what we think of Georgetown, the tough brand of basketball, so I like that, thought process, but it is a super unique situation, a super fragile situation.
I think, but what I said to you before, I think the reason why they're having some concerns, or there's a lot of, think about it. Usually there's rumors. You're hearing so many rumors. We ain't hearing nobody's name attached to this because it's this job. Usually you hear people saying, now we know there's a lot of people that would want the job, right? But you're not hearing as many people attached to it. And I'm only saying that because, again, you have to be careful because it's Georgetown, and it's been, this family has just, their imprint has been on this thing from the jump. And then now that's over, which is Georgetown basketball, like everything. Like, where else can you go when you can start a program where you don't have any association with any alum or anybody else coming back trying to support you with that? And you just think it's just hiring a guy to come in there. I think it's a lot more complicated than that, than people think it's going to be. Like, this is a unique job that people don't take it for granted, taking it for granted, but it's not as simple as just going and handpicking a guy, because there's a lot of stuff. It's one of those jobs, before you take it, you better make some calls and see if people are supporting of you getting that job. Because if not, you'll get a good payday, but your ass will be out of there in about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how that ends up.